Pregame.com.
Thursday night, TNT action. Oklahoma City Thunder traveled to Orlando to play the Magic. I'm joined by Scott Spreitzer. I'm Marco D'Angelo. Scott, this is a pretty good game for TNT on Thursday. Oklahoma City Thunder, we're projecting the line. Orlando come out -1 here, or excuse me, the Thunder to come out 1. And the Thunder, in my opinion, they're the team to beat in the West. I know they're young, but I talked about this with Steven Nover in a video earlier this week. There's like a rite of passage. You got to learn how to win. And I think last year, they made it through the first couple rounds of the playoffs, and then, they finally lost in the NBA Conference Finals to the Dallas Mavericks. But I think it was such a learning process for this team that they're growing up. And really, I just don't see anybody else, maybe the Spurs with their experience, if they can stay healthy, be a team, to contend with them. But I think they're the best in the West. But with that said, I think it's going to be a tough game for them in Orlando because the Magic, there was one point of this season I thought this team was absolutely dead in the water. They had those couple ugly ball games where they scored like 60 to the Celtics. And what's your take on this one here?
Well, first of all, I look back and see if these teams bet early in the season, they did. They met on opening night, Christmas night, where Oklahoma City won by 8. They covered the spread by half a point. Big night for Kevin Durant. I think he pumped in 30 that night. Dwight Howard only had 11. And obviously that's not going to help, but they did keep it relatively close, even though he was not effective on the offensive end. They both play Thursday night. The teams have reacted differently. Oklahoma City's 4-7 against the spread in the second of back-to-back nights. Orlando 5-2 against the spread, and they're obviously coming from different positions because with the Thunder, you're not getting any breaks from the lines makers in those second and back-to-back nights, and you might get some breaks with the Magic. But you're right. I mean, I was there with you when Orlando was going through that little period of time there where, they were struggling to reach double digits in points in second half, third or fourth quarter. It seemed like one of those two quarters for several games where they would struggle to get to 10 points in either the third or the fourth quarter, sometimes both. And I was watching this team back then, and they had no energy whatsoever. Dwight Howard at the time was throwing his teammates under the bus after every loss, saying that they weren't playing to win. And, of course, at the same time, he was demanding to be traded. And I really thought that Stan Van Gundy was that close to losing this team and losing his gig. I really thought it was to that point. Somehow or another, and by the way, I wanted to mention, they closed the month of January on a terrible run. I mean, they lost 4 straight games. They had lost 5 of 6 in the month of January. They scored 85 or less in all 5 of those losses. And I put down on my notes here, in 3 of those losses, they scored 56, 67, and 69 points. They come out of the month of January, their first game of February, they score 109 points. They beat Washington, albeit Washington, but they still score 109. And now going into Thursday night's game, or I guess I should say into Wednesday night's game as we wrap up the month, they're 10-4 in the month of February, and they've scored 99 points or more on 8 occasions. Now, the schedule hasn't been overly difficult, and I'm not sure if Dwight Howard is going to bust out of the funk that he faced on Christmas night against Oklahoma City, because Oklahoma City has a couple of different bigs they can body up and deny the passing lanes to Dwight Howard in this game.
Well, I can say this much. Right now, Orlando's finding themselves in a position where earlier in the year, I thought it was a huge distraction, the whole, Dwight Howard thing. Trade me. And, the team doesn't, because obviously if they pull the trigger and trade him, this team's done for the year.
Sure.
And if you're the rest of the team, you never want to, have your season pulled out from under you. So it was a large distraction. Now they've made this run, and they've positioned themselves. I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, obviously, with Dwight Howard there. Do they keep Dwight Howard as we approach that trading deadline a couple weeks away? Do they go from being a seller to a buyer to try to make one more run, maybe go deep, and then find a way to keep him, persuade him to stay in Orlando? I think the biggest problem is the management, the fans, everybody still remembers when Shaq left and they got nothing. They don't want to see that happen again. But the team's playing well now. Because it's on TV, no matter what, I think Dwight Howard's going to show up huge here for this game for 2 reasons. One, it becomes a statement game for Orlando that maybe they do go out and become buyers, if they can beat one of the elite teams in the NBA and we both agree the Thunder are one of the elite teams in the NBA this year. Or if we're back to going on the selling block, this is a chance for him to advertise, and he did it a few weeks ago when they had a game, I think it was against one of the LA teams, and it was on TNT. He went off for just, his best game of the season in front of the cameras. I see that kind of thing happening again. I just don't know if I can trust this Orlando Magic team because, as you said, they always seem to have that one stretch in the game where you hold your breath, and against an offensive team like the Thunder, you have a little stretch where you go dry, the game can be over. I mean, this team can put up points in a hurry. And, Kevin Durant, he's one of the best players in the NBA. And, he's flying under the radar because, it's Oklahoma City's a small market. And we all know who he is in our business. But, he's not the household name of Kobe and, LeBron and everybody else. This is a tough game for me. I am really up in the air on it. I hope you can shed some light.
Well, it's an opinion for me. I mean, Durant, I just don't think that Orlando has anybody to stop this kid. What a difference in approach to the game and just a human being in general, it seems like, at least around the locker room. Kevin Durant is about as cool as it gets. And he saved this Oklahoma City team probably this year to give them a chance to get to the NBA Finals because if you remember at the end of last year's playoffs, Westbrook was a head case. Yeah. I mean, he was almost lost. And on a lot of teams, including probably the Orlando Magic, even if they got to the finals and he was a member of that team, I don't think Dwight Howard's got the type of personality to pull a guy, pull the reins on a guy a little bit without really pissing the guy off, if I'm allowed to say that. Yeah. And
hey, but we're on YouTube.
Exactly. You want. But as far as Durant is concerned, there was not one time that I can remember where Durant looked like he was upset. He didn't try to show up Westbrook. He didn't blame Westbrook for losing in the conference finals. He just said, we need this guy to advance and to win a ring. And he really made a difference. And I think now you're seeing a better Westbrook on the court. So let's say Durant scores 20 and struggles a little bit. You got Westbrook other side of the floor who can pump in 25 to 30. If Orlando goes through one of those stretches where they struggle at all, as you mentioned, man, or once Oklahoma City, once they drop the clutch, it's over with. You're not going to get them to put it back into neutral. So I'm going to lean towards the Oklahoma City Thunder here. If Dwight Howard was able to get the basketball and do his thing, he's, right now he's on display. If still in his mind he wants to be traded, he's going to come out and try to have the best game he can no matter what. But I think Oklahoma City has the kind of bigs around him who can deny, like I said at the start, the passing lanes to get him the basketball, which makes life tougher on Dwight Howard. It's kind of funny because, the Cape has been flying over Orlando for a while now. He had talked about wanting to fly over Brooklyn if the Swamp Dragons move up to Brooklyn. Dallas is in the mix now when it comes to trading for Dwight Howard. If I'm the Orlando Magic, like you said, the city got burned when it came to Shaq. I know they've been on this nice little 10-4 run as they head into Wednesday night's contest, but I'm willing to say we probably aren't going to win. Not say this publicly, but in closed doors with the brass, the top brass of the Orlando Magic sitting there saying, we've got Chicago in the league, in the conference. We've got Miami in the conference. There are a couple of other teams that could knock us off in this conference in a playoff situation. I think it's time to overhaul a little bit. And if you can get a team like Dallas to make propositions, go after and rebuild this team. I really don't think that Dwight Howard is going to be around anyway, and I don't think their chances of winning an NBA title or getting to the conference finals are very good also.
I can't disagree with you. And going back to that scoring thing, and you said, the Thunder can put it up in a hurry. 10 of their last 11 games, they've scored triple digits. So, I mean, this team can shoot the rock and score. So it's going to be an entertaining game. Like I said, the only thing that's keeping me off of it, I agree with everything you're saying, and this is a game where I'm going to watch and kind of, I think, use as a gauge as far as the Orlando Magic moving forward. This is what I want to term as a statement game for the Magic, because if they can show up Thursday night and make a statement that we can play with the elite, then we might have to look at this team a little differently, because during this 10-4 run, I agree with you, they had some of the cupcakes of the NBA on that 10-4 run. So let's see. It's kind of like Philadelphia did, the last couple of weeks. They had that great start to the season, but they didn't play anybody. Then they had a stretch of like 6 games where they actually played the topper echelon of teams, and then they didn't do so well. So let's see how Orlando mixes up here against Oklahoma City, and I think I'll get more for later in the season watching this game than out of this one.
If they get whacked, the Orlando Magic, and I'm talking if they're out of this game and they get beat up pretty badly, I think all of a sudden that Dwight Howard trade talk comes right back into the mix again. There's no doubt in my mind. This is the game. It doesn't mean they're going to play better or play worse. If they come out and win this game, you're not, whether he wants to be traded or not, you're not going to hear about it. But if they lose this game 10, 12, 14 points and aren't in it, it's done. Blow them up, because the Orlando Magic aren't going to have Dwight Howard after mid-March.
Well, you gotta wonder then if this team's tired of Dwight Howard, what the rest of the team does.
Exactly.
Bye. See ya.
Exactly. Don't
Move
forget the
on.
cape.
All right, so there you have it. Stephen Nova earlier in the week. Scott Spreitzer says to take the Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm on the fence in this one. You can check out pregamevideos.com, carry on the conversation, see what you think. Do you think Dwight Howard's going to be there when the trade deadline hits, or is he going to be gone? We can talk about that, and anything else you want to talk about, hit us up there. He's Scott Spreitzer. I'm Marco D'Angelo. We'll be back with a Friday NBA game. We're going to talk the LA Clippers and the Phoenix Suns on Friday night. That's up next.